The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched beyond what most minds could comprehend. Crystalline walls reached toward a ceiling that seemed to touch the very stars themselves. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their designated sections, each species maintaining careful distance from the others. The air hummed with translation devices, working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something resembling understanding. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Sarah Chen, the last human representative the galaxy would ever see. Her simple black uniform looked almost primitive compared to the flowing robes of the Ethereal Collective, or the biomechanical suits of the Zephyrian Empire. She stood alone, hands clasped behind her back, watching as the Council prepared to pass judgment on her entire species. Council Prime Vex Thera rose from the central platform, her 6 arms spreading wide in what humans had learned was a gesture of absolute authority. The insectoid leader's compound eyes reflected the chamber's light like fractured diamonds. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 1,000 worlds. "We gather today to address the human problem," Vex Thera announced. The translation devices made her chittering speech sound cold and mechanical. "For too long, this young species has disrupted the natural order of our galaxy. Their expansion is reckless. Their methods are crude. Their very existence threatens the delicate balance we have maintained for millennia." Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but she remained silent. The charges were nothing new. Humanity had heard them all before, during the endless diplomatic meetings that had led to this moment. The other species saw humans as barbarians, too violent and unpredictable to be trusted with advanced technology. Representative Clotar of the Aquatic Dominion slithered forward, his gill slits fluttering with agitation. Water dripped from his ceremonial fins as he gestured towards Sarah with one webbed appendage. "The humans have colonized 47 systems in less than 2 centuries, he gurgled. "They strip mine entire asteroids. They terraform planets without regard for existing ecosystems. They wage war against anyone who opposes them." A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled representatives. Sarah could hear the fear beneath their criticism. Humanity's rapid expansion had caught everyone off guard, while other species took millennia to spread across their local stellar neighborhoods. Humans had burst from their home system like water through a broken dam. Furthermore, added Counselor Zithrak from the Hive Collective, his mandibles clicking rapidly, humans refuse to accept proper guidance. They reject our established protocols for colonization. They ignore warnings about dangerous technologies. They even modify their own bodies with crude genetic engineering. Sarah finally stepped forward, her boots echoing in the vast chamber. "Council Prime, I request permission to respond to these accusations." Vex's Thera's head tilted, compound eyes studying the human with what might have been curiosity. "Very well, Ambassador Chen. Speak your final words as humanity's representative, honored council. You speak of balance and order, but what you really mean is stagnation." Sarah's voice carried clearly through the translation network. "For 10,000 years, your civilizations have remained essentially unchanged. You've divided the galaxy among yourselves and decided that nothing new should ever happen." Angry chittering and gurgling filled the chamber, but Sarah continued. "Humans are different. We explore because it's in our nature. We adapt because we must. We innovate because standing still means dying. You fear us not because we're violent, but because we represent change in a galaxy that has forgotten how to grow." Council Prime Vex Thera raised one arm for silence. "Your words only confirm what we have long suspected, Ambassador. Humans are indeed too dangerous to remain among civilized species." She turned to address the full council. "I call for a vote on Resolution 847 Alpha, the complete banishment of humanity from galactic space." The voting began immediately. One by one, the representatives of each major power cast their decision. The Ethereal Collective voted for banishment, their glowing forms pulsing with righteous certainty. The Zephyrian Empire followed suit, their mechanical voices stating that humans posed an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. The Aquatic Dominion, the Hive Collective, the Crystal Consciousness, and dozens of other civilizations all agreed. When the count was finished, the result was devastating. Of the 127 voting members of the Galactic Council, 124 had voted for humanity's banishment. Only 3 minor species had abstained, and none had voted in support of the humans. The resolution passes, Vex Thara announced. Effective immediately, humanity is banned from all established hyperspace lanes. Human colonies outside your home system must be abandoned within 1 standard galactic year. Any human vessel found in Council space after this deadline will be destroyed without warning. Sarah felt the weight of this moment settling on her shoulders. Humanity's greatest fear had become reality. They were being cast out of galactic civilization, forced back to their single solar system like children sent to their room. Council Prime, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what was happening. I formally protest this decision on behalf of the United Earth Government and all human colonies. We consider this act of mass deportation to be a violation of every principle of justice and fairness that civilized beings should uphold. Your protest is noted and dismissed, Vex Thara replied. Guards will escort you to your vessel. You have 1 local day to depart Council space. As the session ended, Sarah walked through the corridors of the massive station for the last time. Alien beings of every imaginable shape and size moved past her, some staring with open curiosity, others pointedly looking away. She could feel their relief that the human problem had finally been solved. The docking bay where her ship waited was nearly empty. The few maintenance workers present were all robotic, their movements efficient and emotionless. Sarah's escort of ethereal guards maintained their distance, their translucent forms shimmering with barely contained energy. Her ship, the diplomatic vessel Horizon's Edge, looked small and primitive compared to the elegant curves of ethereal vessels or the geometric perfection of Zephyrian craft. But it was human-built. And that meant it was tough, reliable, and capable of modifications that would make other species nervous. Captain Martinez was waiting at the airlock, his weathered face grim. How bad is it, Ambassador? As bad as it gets, Rico. Sarah stepped aboard her ship for the final time. We're out, all of us. 1 year to evacuate everything beyond the Sol system. Martinez cursed in Spanish, then caught himself. Sorry, Ambassador. It's just 47 colonies. Nearly 200 million people living outside Earth space. How are we supposed to evacuate everyone? We'll find a way, Sarah said, though she wasn't sure how. We always do. As the Horizon's Edge undocked from the Council station, Sarah stood at the observation deck watching the massive structure shrink into the distance. The station was a marvel of cooperative engineering, built by a dozen different species working together over centuries. It represented everything humanity was being cut off from. Advanced technology, galactic civilization, the promise of a larger universe. Set course for Earth, she told Martinez. Maximum burn. The President needs to hear about this as soon as possible. The journey home took 3 weeks through conventional hyperspace lanes. Sarah spent the time preparing her report and thinking about humanity's options. They were being given a year to retreat to a single star system, but she knew humans well enough to understand that wouldn't be the end of the story. Earth looked the same as always when they finally arrived. Blue and white and beautiful, hanging in the void like a jewel. The orbital defense platforms challenged their approach, but stood down when they received proper identification codes. Soon they were docking at Luna Station, humanity's primary spaceport. President Williams was waiting for her in the station's executive briefing room. Maria Williams had been a soldier before entering politics, and her steel-gray hair and sharp eyes reflected a lifetime of difficult decisions. She listened without interruption as Sarah delivered her report. So they want us gone, Williams said when Sarah finished. All of us, back to 1 star system. Like we never left Earth at all. That's the size of it, Madam President. We have 11 months to complete the evacuation. Williams stood and walked to the room's main viewport. Earth filled the view, turning slowly on its axis. You know what the ironic thing is, Sarah? They're afraid we'll upset their precious balance, but they just guaranteed we'll do exactly that. I'm not sure I follow. Think about it. They could have kept us contained by bringing us into their system gradually. Give us a few more systems to colonize. Some advanced technology in exchange for resources. Maybe even a permanent seat on the council in a few centuries. Instead, They've just told 47 colonies full of humans that they need to pack up and leave everything they've built. Sarah began to understand. You're thinking some of the colonies won't evacuate voluntarily. I'm thinking none of them will. Williams turned back to face her. We're not going to abandon our people, Sarah. Not a single colony. Not a single human being. If the Galaxy Council wants us gone, they're going to have to come and take us. Madam President, that would mean war with the entire galaxy. They have thousands of ships, technologies we can barely comprehend. They have stagnant civilizations that haven't fought a real war in millennia, Williams corrected. We have something they've forgotten about. The willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. Over the following weeks, emergency sessions of the Earth Parliament debated humanity's response. Some argued for compliance, pointing out that resistance would be suicide against such overwhelming odds. Others demanded that Earth should at least try to negotiate a better deal. But the colonists themselves settled the debate. Messages began arriving from human worlds across the galaxy. And the response was unanimous. They wouldn't abandon their homes. They had fought too hard and sacrificed too much to build their new worlds to simply walk away because aliens told them to leave. Admiral Jackson, the head of Earth's military forces, presented the situation to President Williams with typical military efficiency. We have 847 ships of various classes spread across our colonies. The aliens have tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. In a straight fight, we lose badly. Then we don't fight straight, Williams replied. What do we have that they don't? Adaptability, creativity, and pure, stubborn determination. Jackson's smile was grim. Also, we've been studying their technology for 2 centuries. We know their weaknesses. The plan that emerged over the following months was audacious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Rather than simply fortify their existing colonies and wait for attack, they would go on the offensive, hit and run raids against alien shipping, sabotage of their infrastructure, guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. But first, they needed to disappear. Admiral Jackson's fleet began the greatest deception in human history. Using every trick of electronic warfare they had learned, they started broadcasting false signals from the human colonies. To any alien observer, it would appear that the evacuation was proceeding on schedule. Ships were leaving human space with their transponders broadcasting refugee status. In reality, the human fleet was scattering throughout the galaxy, using captured alien technology to hide in the vast spaces between stars. Supply caches were established in asteroid fields and dead systems. Secret bases were carved out of planetoids in regions the aliens considered worthless. Most importantly, every human ship underwent extensive modifications. Their weapons were upgraded with technologies reverse-engineered from alien devices. Their hulls were reinforced with materials that didn't officially exist. Their engines were tuned for maximum speed and endurance. As the deadline approached, the last apparent human ships left their colonies and headed for Earth. To the watching galaxy, it seemed that humanity had accepted its fate and was retreating to its home system like scolded children. The Galactic Council congratulated itself on solving the human problem without bloodshed. Some of the more moderate species even suggested that humanity might be allowed back into galactic society in a few centuries. Once they had learned proper respect for established order, they had no idea what was actually coming. On the final day before the deadline expired, President Williams addressed the human species one last time from Earth. Her message was broadcast to every hidden ship and secret base scattered across the galaxy. My fellow humans, she began, today marks the end of one chapter in our history and the beginning of another. The Galaxy Council believes they have banished us from the stars. They believe they have taught us humility and put us in our place. They are wrong. Her image flickered slightly as the quantum encryption struggled to maintain coherence across such vast distances, but her voice remained clear and strong. We are not retreating. We are not surrendering. We are simply changing tactics. For too long, we tried to play by their rules and fit into their system. Now we make our own rules. Now we show them what humans are really capable of when we stop trying to be polite. The message concluded with coordinates and activation codes for the first phase of what would become known as the Shadow War. Across the galaxy, Human ships powered up their engines and began moving toward their targets. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. Soon, they would learn that they had only made it worse. Captain Elena Rodriguez brought her stealth frigate Midnight Runner out of the asteroid field like a ghost materializing from the void. Her target hung before her in space, massive and seemingly invincible. A Zephyrian cargo hauler, carrying processed metals from the mining worlds to the core systems. The alien ship was easily 10 times the size of her vessel, its geometric hull plating gleaming under the light of a distant star. 3 months had passed since humanity's supposed evacuation from galactic space. 3 months of preparation, positioning, and planning. Now, the real work began. Weapons status? Rodriguez asked her tactical officer. All systems green, Captain. Magnetic torpedoes loaded and ready. The new alien tech warheads are showing full charge. Rodriguez nodded. The warheads were humanity's first real breakthrough in reverse engineering alien technology. Instead of simple explosives, they used ethereal energy cascade technology stolen from a diplomatic gift exchange years earlier. One torpedo could cripple a ship 20 times larger than the Midnight Runner. Remember, people, Rodriguez announced to her crew. We're not trying to destroy this ship. We want prisoners, cargo, and most importantly, information. The Zephyrians think they're safe in their own space. Time to show them how wrong they are. The attack lasted less than 4 minutes. The Midnight Runner's advanced stealth systems kept them invisible until the very last second. By the time the cargo hauler's sensors detected the incoming torpedoes, it was far too late to respond. The first warhead struck the ship's engine section, cascading energy through its power grid and leaving it dead in space. The second hit took out their communication array. Boarding was swift and efficient. The Zephyrian crew, used to peaceful trade runs through safe space, surrendered without serious resistance. Within an hour, Rodriguez had what she needed: shipping manifests, navigation data, and most importantly, 3 Zephyrian officers who could provide intelligence about their empire's military capabilities. As her ship disappeared back into the asteroid field with its prizes, similar attacks were taking place across the galaxy. The human fleet had split into hundreds of small units, each targeting alien shipping, communication stations, and isolated facilities. They struck without warning, took what they needed, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Admiral Jackson monitored the operation from his flagship, hidden in the shadow of a brown dwarf star 40 light-years from Earth. The Prometheus had been extensively modified for long-term operations, its hull bristling with captured alien sensors and communication equipment. What had once been a simple human battlecruiser now resembled something built by a dozen different species. "Report from Strike Group 7, announced Commander Hayes, Jackson's intelligence officer. They've successfully raided the ethereal research station in the Vega sector, captured samples of their quantum processing technology and 2 of their scientists." Jackson studied the tactical display showing the locations of all known human operations. Green dots marked successful raids, blue showed units moving to new positions, and red indicated any problems. So far, there was nothing red on the board. "How are our new friends adapting to captivity?" Jackson asked. "Better than expected, sir. The alien prisoners seem more confused than hostile. Most of them keep asking when the proper authorities will negotiate their release. They don't seem to understand that we're operating outside their normal system entirely." That was exactly what Jackson had hoped for. The various alien civilizations had grown so comfortable with their established order that they couldn't properly respond to something completely outside their experience. They kept expecting humanity to follow the rules, to make demands, to negotiate. Instead, humans simply took what they needed and disappeared. Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's leading expert on alien technology, was having the time of her life. Her laboratory aboard the research vessel Newton's Dream was filled with captured alien devices in various states of disassembly. After decades of trying to understand alien technology through diplomatic exchanges and limited trade, she finally had unlimited access to the real thing. "The Hive Collective's biocomputers are even more sophisticated than we thought," she reported to Admiral Jackson during their weekly briefing. "They're not just organic circuits. They're actually simplified neural networks based on their own brain structures. If we can decode the programming language, we might be able to interface directly with their systems. How long until we can implement countermeasures? Jackson asked. Give me 6 months and I can build you a virus that will make their ships think they're house cats, Kim replied with a grin. Give me a year, and I can probably teach them to meow. The joke was funny, but Jackson understood the serious implications. If humans could crack the Hive Collective's biocomputer systems, they could potentially take control of entire fleets without firing a shot. The aliens' technological superiority would become a liability rather than an advantage. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, the Galactic Council was beginning to realize they had a problem. The raids were becoming impossible to ignore, and the evidence was undeniable. Humans had not retreated to their home system as ordered. Instead, they had disappeared into the vast spaces of the galaxy and launched what could only be described as a terrorist campaign. Council Prime Vex Thara called an emergency session to address the crisis. The great chamber that had witnessed humanity's banishment now buzzed with angry voices and confused demands for action. 17 cargo ships destroyed or captured in the last month, reported Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. 6 research stations raided. 3 diplomatic couriers intercepted and their crews taken prisoner. The humans are making a mockery of our security. Representative Clotar's gill slits fluttered with agitation. This is exactly what we feared when we allowed humans into galactic civilization. They have no respect for law or order. They attack civilian targets without warning. Perhaps, suggested Councillor Murthek of the Crystal Consciousness, we should reconsider our approach. The humans are obviously more resourceful than we anticipated. Perhaps diplomatic engagement would be more effective than continued military pressure. Vex Thara's compound eyes focused on the crystal being with something approaching hostility. The Council voted unanimously to banish humanity. We will not appear weak by reversing that decision after a few terrorist attacks. Then what do you propose? Asked Murthek. We hunt them down, Vex Thara declared. We mobilize the full military forces of every council member, and we find their hidden bases. We capture their ships and bring their leaders to trial. We show the galaxy that defying the council has consequences. The mobilization that followed was the largest military operation in galactic history. Every major civilization contributed ships and personnel to the effort. The Ethereal Collective provided their most advanced sensor technology. The Zephyrian Empire contributed their most powerful warships. The Hive Collective offered their bioships with their ability to track targets across interstellar distances. Within weeks, nearly 10,000 ships were spreading across the galaxy, searching for any trace of human activity. It was an overwhelming display of force, more than enough to crush any normal rebellion. But humanity wasn't fighting a normal rebellion. They had spent months preparing for exactly this response. As the alien search fleets spread out across the galaxy, they found nothing but empty space and false signals. The humans had gone deeper into hiding, using captured alien technology to mask their presence. Instead of running from the massive alien fleet, Admiral Jackson decided to use it against itself. Human intelligence teams, infiltrated into alien communication networks, began feeding false information about human positions. Soon, different alien fleets were converging on the same empty systems, creating confusion and frustration. Even better, the search operation was straining the aliens' resources. Ships designed for patrol duty were being pushed to their limits, trying to cover the vast distances of interstellar space. Crews that were used to comfortable garrison duty found themselves spending months in deep space with no results to show for their efforts. Captain Martinez, now commanding the strike cruiser Defiant Thunder, watched from concealment as a Hive Collective search fleet passed through his system. 12 bioships moved in perfect formation, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that served as their equivalent of running lights. They're beautiful, admitted his tactical officer, Lieutenant Park. Too bad we have to kill them. We're not here to kill them, Martinez corrected. We're here to teach them a lesson they won't forget. The Defiant Thunder carried humanity's newest weapon, quantum mines based on ethereal technology. The devices were nearly impossible to detect once deployed, and they could be programmed to activate based on specific ship signatures. Martinez had been seeding them throughout this system for the past week. As the Hive fleet reached the center of the system, the mines activated simultaneously. Not with explosions, but with quantum displacement fields that randomly teleported parts of each ship to other locations. The effect was devastating. Critical systems suddenly found themselves scattered across light-years of space. The bioships, evolved for millions of years to function as unified organisms, simply couldn't cope with having parts of themselves scattered across the galaxy. Within minutes, all 12 ships were dead in space, their crews trapped aboard vessels that no longer knew how to function. Martinez didn't waste time gloating. His ship was already moving to the system's edge, preparing to jump to hyperspace before reinforcements could arrive. But first, he transmitted a message on the Hive Collective's emergency frequency. "This is Captain Martinez of the Human Space Force. Your search fleets are crossing territories that humanity has claimed by right of settlement and exploration. We suggest you reconsider your current course of action before more of your ships suffer similar accidents." Similar messages were being broadcast across the galaxy as human strike teams hit search fleets, supply convoys, and isolated outposts. The aliens were beginning to understand that they weren't hunting scattered refugees. They were fighting an organized military force that had been preparing for this confrontation for months. The psychological impact was enormous. Alien crews that had signed up for what they thought would be a simple police action found themselves facing an enemy that struck from nowhere and seemed to know their every move. Morale began to collapse as ship after ship simply disappeared or was found drifting dead in space. Worse still, the humans weren't just attacking randomly. They were systematically targeting the aliens' most advanced technology and their most experienced personnel. Research vessels carrying experimental equipment were priority targets. Command ships with senior officers were hunted ruthlessly. Slowly but surely, humanity was degrading the aliens' technological and command advantages. Dr. Kim's research was paying dividends beyond anyone's expectations. The captured alien technology was being reverse-engineered faster than anyone thought possible. Partly because humans approached the problem differently than the original designers expected. Where alien engineers saw elegant, specialized solutions, humans saw components that could be jury-rigged for entirely different purposes. The ethereal quantum communicators aren't just for faster-than-light messaging, Kim explained to Admiral Jackson during one of their briefings. If you reverse the polarity and feed them through a Zephyrian power grid, they become quantum scramblers. We can use them to disrupt any quantum-based technology within light years, including their own communication networks, especially their communication networks. We could effectively blind and deafen entire fleets with the right placement of scramblers. Jackson studied the technical specifications Kim had provided. If her calculations were correct, humanity was about to gain a decisive advantage in electronic warfare. "How many scramblers can you build?" "As many as you can bring me alien components for," Kim replied. The beauty of this approach is that we're using their own technology against them. Every ship they send to hunt us is carrying the raw materials we need to build more weapons. The war was entering a new phase. What had begun as hit-and-run raids was evolving into something much more sophisticated. Humanity was building the infrastructure for a long-term campaign, using captured alien technology to level the playing field. But the aliens were adapting too. After months of frustrating losses, they were beginning to develop new tactics. Some of the smarter alien commanders were starting to think like humans, anticipating unconventional strategies and preparing countermeasures. The real test was yet to come. Admiral Jackson knew that eventually, the aliens would figure out how to effectively hunt human forces. When that happened, humanity would need to be ready for the next phase of their war for survival. As he studied the star charts showing the positions of human forces across the galaxy, Jackson allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had wanted to banish humanity from the stars. Instead, they had forced humans to become something new. A species that could fight and win against impossible odds. The galaxy was about to learn that banishing humanity had been the worst mistake the Galactic Council had ever made. 2 years after the banishment, Admiral Jackson stood on the bridge of humanity's first true starbase, hidden deep in the Orion Nebula, where alien sensors couldn't penetrate the dense gas clouds. What had begun as a desperate guerrilla campaign had evolved into something the galaxy had never seen before. a human empire built entirely in the shadows. The base itself was a marvel of hybrid engineering. Its core structure used human manufacturing techniques, but every major system incorporated alien technology captured during raids. Ethereal quantum processors handled communications. Zephyrian power cores provided energy. Hive collective biocomputers managed life support. The result was a facility more advanced than anything either humanity or the Galactic Council had built. Status report, Commander Hayes, Jackson requested, as he studied the tactical displays showing human positions across the galaxy. Remarkable progress, sir, Hayes replied, consulting her datapad. We now have operational bases in 47 different systems. Our fleet strength has increased to nearly 3,000 ships, most of them incorporating alien technology. And our intelligence network has infiltrated every major council civilization. Jackson nodded with satisfaction. The numbers told the story of humanity's transformation. What had started as 847 ships fleeing certain destruction had become a force capable of challenging the entire galaxy. More importantly, they had done it while remaining completely invisible to their enemies. Any response from the Council to our latest diplomatic overture? Same as always, sir. They refuse to acknowledge our existence as anything other than terrorists and pirates. Council Prime Vex Thera has publicly stated that humanity will never be allowed back into civilized space. Then I suppose we'll have to create our own civilized space, Jackson mused. The plan that had been developing over the past months was audacious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Rather than continuing to fight a guerrilla war from hiding, they would reveal themselves and claim territory openly, but they wouldn't ask permission or seek recognition. They would simply take what they wanted and dare the galaxy to stop them. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now commanding a fleet of 12 ships, received her orders while patrolling the Outer Rim territories. Her target was the Kepler 442 system, a lightly defended area that contained 3 habitable worlds under nominal aquatic dominion control. The actual alien population was minimal, a few thousand researchers and administrators scattered across monitoring stations. All ships. This is Admiral Rodriguez, she announced, as her fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. The title was new, reflecting humanity's rapidly expanding command structure. Execute Operation Reclamation. The human ships moved with precision that would have impressed even Zephyrian tacticians. Advanced stealth technology kept them invisible until they were in position around each alien installation. Then, simultaneously, they dropped their cloaking and transmitted surrender demands on all frequencies. Attention alien vessels and installations, Rodriguez broadcast. This system is now under the protection of the human empire. You have 1 hour to gather your personal belongings and prepare for evacuation to the nearest council system. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. The response was predictable. Confusion, outrage, and demands that the humans explain their authority for such actions. Rodriguez ignored the chatter and simply waited. When the hour expired, her ships began systematically disabling any alien vessel or facility that hadn't already surrendered. The operation was over in 6 hours. Every alien in the system had been safely evacuated, their personal property respected, but their equipment and installations claimed by humanity. Most importantly, it had all been recorded by human intelligence operatives and broadcast to news networks across the galaxy. Similar operations were taking place in dozens of other systems. Humanity wasn't just raiding anymore. They were claiming territory, establishing colonies, and declaring sovereignty over entire regions of space. The message was clear. The human empire was no longer hiding. The galactic response was immediate and overwhelming. Every major power committed forces to what they called the final campaign against human terrorism. Nearly 15,000 ships converged on the systems humanity had claimed, ready to crush this upstart species once and for all. Council Prime Vex Thara personally led the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Her flagship, the Eternal Unity, was a masterpiece of cooperative engineering built by all the major council races working together. It was equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields in the galaxy, crewed by the finest officers from every civilization. Today we end this threat to galactic civilization, Vex Thara announced to her assembled fleet commanders. The humans think they can challenge 10,000 years of established order. We will show them the price of such arrogance. What the alien fleet found when they arrived at the first human-claimed system was nothing they had expected. Instead of hastily built defensive positions or hidden guerrilla bases, they discovered something that looked disturbingly like a legitimate military installation. The human starbase that orbited Kepler 442c was larger than most alien space stations. Its design combined the best features of every major galactic civilization, while adding distinctly human innovations. Weapon emplacements bristled from every surface, but they were clearly designed for defense rather than aggression. More unsettling was the fleet that rose to meet them. The human ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor plating. These weren't the converted civilian vessels that had begun the rebellion. They were purpose-built warships that incorporated the best technology from across the galaxy. Admiral Rodriguez commanded the defense from her new flagship, the Indomitable Dawn. The vessel had been built in the hidden shipyards of the Orion Nebula, using techniques that no single alien species could match. Its weapons systems combined ethereal energy manipulation, Zephyrian precision engineering, and human innovation into something entirely new. All ships, defensive positions, Rodriguez ordered. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their fleet. We're trying to convince them that destroying us would cost more than they're willing to pay. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries. The aliens had overwhelming numerical superiority, but the humans had advantages their enemies hadn't expected. Every alien ship that approached the human formation found its systems being disrupted by quantum scramblers based on captured technology. Communication networks failed at crucial moments. Weapon systems experienced mysterious malfunctions. Engines shut down without warning. Meanwhile, human ships seemed to know exactly where their enemies would be at any given moment. Intelligence operatives who had spent 2 years infiltrating alien command structures were feeding real-time tactical data to human commanders. Every alien strategy was anticipated and countered before it could be implemented. The battle raged for 3 days before Council Prime Vexthera was forced to acknowledge the truth. Her fleet couldn't win. For every human ship her forces destroyed, 2 more seemed to appear from nowhere. For every system her technicians repaired, 3 more would mysteriously fail. The humans weren't just fighting with superior technology. They were fighting with perfect intelligence and flawless coordination. "This is impossible," Admiral Keth Var reported from his crippled flagship. "Their technology is our technology. But somehow they're using it better than we are. It's as if they understand our systems better than we do." Vexthera's compound eyes studied the tactical display with growing comprehension. "Because they do understand our systems better than we do. They've been studying us for 2 years, taking apart our technology, learning our weaknesses. We've been fighting an enemy who knows everything about us while we know nothing about them." The realization was devastating. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity as primitive barbarians, never considering that those same barbarians might be capable of learning and adapting faster than established civilizations. While the aliens had remained static, humanity had been evolving. President Williams chose that moment to make her first public appearance since the banishment. Her message was broadcast on every frequency, transmitted by quantum communicators that bypassed all alien security measures and displayed on screens across the galaxy. "Citizens of the galaxy," Williams began, her image clear and confident. "I am President Maria Williams, of the Human Empire. 2 years ago, your leaders banished my species from civilized space because they feared our potential to disrupt their established order. Today, I stand before you to announce that their fears were justified." The camera pulled back to reveal that Williams was standing on the bridge of the Prometheus, which was now orbiting Earth openly for the first time since the banishment began. Through the viewport behind her, the blue and white marble of humanity's homeworld turned peacefully. The Human Empire now controls 47 star systems and continues to grow. Our fleets patrol space lanes that stretch across half the galaxy. Our technology incorporates the best achievements of every major civilization, improved by human innovation and determination. She paused, letting that information sink in across the galaxy. When she continued, her voice carried absolute conviction. "We do not seek conquest for its own sake. We do not wish to destroy the civilizations that banished us. But we will never again accept being told that humanity has no place among the stars. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us, but only if we are treated as equals. The terms Williams offered were generous considering humanity's position of strength. The human empire would recognize existing alien territorial claims and maintain peaceful relations with any civilization willing to do the same. Trade agreements could be negotiated. Technology could be shared. The galaxy could return to stability, but on new terms that recognized humanity as a major power. However, Williams continued, if the Galactic Council chooses to continue this war, they should understand what they face. Humanity no longer fights for survival. We fight as the rightful inheritors of galactic civilization. We have proven that we can learn from any teacher, adapt to any challenge, and overcome any obstacle. The message concluded with coordinates for diplomatic contact and an offer to begin negotiations immediately. Williams made it clear that humanity preferred peace, but was fully prepared for continued war if necessary. The response from the Galactic Council was swift and predictable. Council Prime Vexthera rejected all human terms and vowed to continue fighting until humanity was completely eliminated. Other species were more pragmatic. Several minor civilizations quietly established diplomatic contact with the human empire. Even some major powers began secret negotiations. The Crystal Consciousness was the first major civilization to break ranks. Councillor Merthek announced that his species would recognize human empire territorial claims in exchange for trade agreements and technology sharing. The crystalline beings had always valued logic over tradition, and they could see that continuing the war would only strengthen humanity's position. Dr. Kim, now Director of Imperial Research, was amazed by how quickly alien technology was advancing human capabilities. We're not just copying their designs anymore, she explained to President Williams during a visit to the main research facility. We're improving them in ways their original creators never imagined. She led Williams through laboratories where human scientists worked alongside voluntary alien researchers who had defected from the Council. The ethereal energy cascade technology that took them millennia to develop, we've improved its efficiency by 300% in just 6 months. The Hive Collective's biocomputers, that they consider the pinnacle of organic engineering, our version can process data 10 times faster. How is that possible? Williams asked. Because we approach problems differently, Kim explained. Every alien species develops technology along predictable lines based on their biology and psychology. They optimize for their specific needs and stop there. Humans optimize for whatever works best, regardless of whether it matches our original biology. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just catching up to galactic civilization. They were surpassing it by combining the best aspects of every species' achievements while adding their own innovations. The war continued for another year, but the outcome was inevitable. Human forces grew stronger with every passing month, while alien morale collapsed. More and more civilizations chose to negotiate rather than fight. The Galactic Council's authority began fragmenting as member species pursued their own interests. The end came not with a climactic battle, but with a simple announcement. Council Prime Vexthera resigned her position and recommended that the council be dissolved. The Great Chamber where humanity had been banished hosted its final session as the representatives voted to end their 10,000-year alliance. President Williams stood in that same chamber 1 year later as the newly elected leader of the Galactic Federation, a voluntary alliance of species committed to cooperation rather than control. The crystalline walls that had witnessed humanity's banishment now reflected the light of hope for a new era of galactic civilization. The age of stagnation is over, Williams announced to the assembled representatives. The galaxy belongs to all of us now, but only if we're willing to embrace change, growth, and the endless possibilities that await us among the stars. Admiral Jackson, now Fleet Admiral of the Galactic Federation Defense Force, watched from the observation gallery as former enemies shook hands and began planning their shared future. The same species that had voted to banish humanity were now competing to form alliances with the human empire. You know what the ironic thing is? Jackson said to Admiral Rodriguez, who stood beside him. They tried to banish us because they thought we'd disrupt their balance. Instead, We gave them something better. A chance to grow again. Rodriguez smiled as she watched the proceedings below. Do you think they'll learn to keep up with us? Some will, Jackson replied. Others will find their own paths. But one thing's certain. The galaxy will never be the same. Outside the Great Chamber, human ships patrolled alongside alien vessels that had once hunted them. The technology that flowed through Federation space incorporated innovations from dozens of species, all working together to push the boundaries of what was possible. Humanity had been banished from the stars for being too disruptive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to the established order. They had returned as the leaders of a new galactic civilization built on the principles they had always embodied: growth, adaptation, and the courage to reach for the impossible. The galaxy had tried to contain humanity and failed. Now it belonged to everyone who was brave enough to claim it.